So for the better part of a decade at this point, my riding style has been grounded in distance riding, specifically on the Dyna and FXR platform. When Harley-Davidson announced a modern bike that seemed to be truly tailored to my riding style, I knew it was only an amount of time. In 2023, braving a fierce northeast blizzard, I found myself face to face with a new journey, and thus, I became the owner of a 2023 White Sand Pearl Lowrider ST. A year later, this bike is at a place where I do believe it has become an extremely formidable weapon, especially for crushing miles while preserving true performance. Stay tuned, because in this video, we're going to go through the modifications that I made to make my Lowrider ST the perfect bike for a tried and true Dynabro that crushes miles. Let's get into it. What's going on, YouTube? FXDLS Brooklyn is back in the building. So yeah, this is what this bike looked like stock, and this is what it looks like in the present day. It's quite the transformation, and before we get too far into it, I do just need to give a major shout out to all the companies that sponsored this project. So yeah, as you can see, this bike is very far from stock. The first thing I actually did with this bike was immediately change the exhaust. This is actually what it sounded like when it was stock. And this is what it sounds like now. I've been running a Fab 28 on all my bikes for over 6 years at this point, and I was excited to have them make me a unique exhaust for this bike that has the throwback styling of the one that I've been running on my Dyna since 2018. The increase in power was immediate, as was to be expected, and as you could hear, the bike definitely has more of a presence in terms of the typical rowdy Harley-Davidson sound we've all come to know and love. However, the sound is not only from the exhaust, but also from the fact that I did upgrade the cam as well. The bike comes stock as a true powerhouse with that 117 Milwaukee 8 motor. However, coming from a 124 SNS Hot Rod Dyna, I found myself missing out on that level of rowdiness and vicious immediate power. I took the bike to none other than Mike the Dynacologist. All I'm going to say is, if you know, you know. But anyways, we went with a 472 redshift cam to dial in the bike to have explosive power off the line, while also tuning it to get the most miles out of a tank of gas, as this bike is going to be my main road bike. The combination of this 117 engine and this cam, with it being dialed in by a master tuner, the bike has attained true power, feeling almost comparable to my 124 hot rod build. The cam itself changes the experience up a lot, as it truly does wake this engine up. The bike after the cam has that rumble and chop to it with that truly explosive power with the slightest twist of the throttle. Honestly, I'll probably make a full-length video on this topic alone, but yeah, short end of it, doing the cam on this bike is an extremely affordable way to unleash its true potential. Aesthetically, while we're at it, as you can see, we also swapped out the air cleaner for an SNS Stealth, as well as going for the black push rods and lifters, cleaning the engine up quite a bit. As always, major shout out to j&P Cycles for the timing cover, derby cover, and AC cover, which makes this bike pop like nothing else. One of the more controversial changes I've made on this bike was losing the stock bags in exchange for Leather Pros. This is one that I was on the fence about because honestly, I didn't hate the stock clamshell bags. However, I finally decided to stay true to most of my builds and throw Leather Pros on this bike. With the fact that these bags expand as well as have side pockets, this allows for significantly more storage, which again, is important for the purpose of this bike as a mile crusher. I also just wound up really liking how this changed the aesthetic of the bike as a whole. And if that wasn't enough, now the bags are truly symmetrical. So people will stop complaining in the comment section about one bag being larger than the other. The Saddlemen SDC Pro. For a bike this fast, you need a seat that will lock you in place, and no seat does that quite like the Saddlemen SDC Pro. The true strength of this seat is the comfort that it offers both the rider and the passenger with full gel padding without sacrificing the clean aesthetics of the seat. I've laid down tens of thousands of miles on the long road with this seat on my Dyna, and it is what it is. It's the tried and true, best by far, Saddlemen. So if you're gonna build a bike to go fast, you better damn well be sure it could stop fast, especially if you're riding in a chaotic environment like New York City. I knew I wanted to have the best stopping power available, and for my previous Dyna build, I knew there was only one. The formula is Lindell rotors with Brembo calipers combined with racing pads. This performance brake setup, combined with the fact that this bike has ABS, I could sleep well at night knowing that I could stop this thing on a dime in a tight situation. We see a lot of setups with the gold Lindell rotors, so I decided I wanted to keep the rims on this one bronze and play off of that aesthetic by running these blacked out rotors. Aesthetically, I'm really digging it, and once again, Lindell Brakes does not disappoint. So for the bars, we originally had the Indian Larry Brooklyn Brawlers on here, which I absolutely loved. I did decide to swap them off momentarily for these Lucky 13s from Lucky Dave's due to the amount of you asking me to review them on this particular bike. I know they're good bars, being that I have 70,000 miles on them from the Dyna platform, especially because they have that 2-inch pullback on a bike that desperately needs it. I spoke in a previous video about how even with a pullback, this bike still inherently has you reaching forward for the bars, which is something I actually did not like about this bike. I did, however, find an amazing solution for this issue. This right here. This special triple tree from My Machinist is an absolute game changer. This thing adds an additional 1.5 inches of pullback to the bars. So this combined with bars that already have a significant pullback, and this bike is starting to sit more like a Dyna or an FXR, which, you know me, that's the world that I'm coming from. So yeah, if you're somebody that wants to sit upright and not be reaching for the bars, you're going to want to run a setup like this. I'm truly really happy with this solution. As I've said, I bought this bike to be my main road bike. That being said, just as the brakes is something you should never cheap out on, the same goes for suspension, especially if you ride in a challenging environment like New York City. I've run Legends before on my Dyna builds, and I've always been happy with the performance. This bike already had superb suspension stock, but again, I know I'm going to be sitting on this bike for tens of thousands of miles, so I wanted to be sure I was running the best. The one thing that I'm really happy about is that I could throw a 13.5 inch coil in the rear, raising the bike up slightly. One thing I didn't like about this bike is how low it naturally sits, so raising it a small amount actually makes it feel way better for me, making it feel more at home like my Dyna or FXR, while knowing that the bike could handle the hard conditions in New York City streets without bottoming out. Lighting is a must. You need to be able to be both seen and see in the sketchiest of situations. As always, we look no further than Moon's MC for the main lighting, both front and rear, which never disappoints. In the rear, we have the addition of a Custom Dynamics LED license frame for a bit of extra light when you're braking. We also added the Baja Designs LP4 mounted to the crash bar, which is just another small piece of lighting that can make a big difference, especially if you're running hard at night. I decided not to go with any of the yellow lighting we see a lot these days and just keep things with white LEDs. So this is a small thing, but if you ride year-round like me, this is really nice to have. This adapter connects straight to the battery of the bike and allows you to take your heated gear and plug directly into the bike without having to mess with a third-party adapter. This isn't one of the more flashy upgrades, but like I said, if you put yourself in hard riding environments, every little bit helps. In terms of my Dyna builds, these mini floorboards have been one of my absolute favorites for the long miles, and honestly, they look really great with the levers from Moon's MC. For the passenger, she'll also be running a luxurious floorboard setup straight from Moon's MC. So some of the remaining things I haven't talked about is we have the brass knurled grips from Arlen Ness, a shift linkage from PBM, and a bar bag from Moons MC. These are small things that also definitely make a big difference. And finally, we definitely have to mention the crash bar from Bung King. This is the same one that I run on my Dyna and has definitely saved my bike many a time. It also doubles as a highway peg if you feel like you need to stretch your legs out on the longer miles. So once again, that's from Bung King. So yeah, I'm really proud of how far this bike has come within the span of just 1 year. It was already a formidable sport touring beast before all these upgrades, but now it's approaching its final form as a true FXDLS Brooklyn Ripper. There's still actually a few small things I have in my garage that I need to add to the builds, so expect a follow-up video at some point, but in terms of the big ticket items, this thing is ready to ride through hell and back. I guess the one thing everyone is asking me is, hey bro, when are you going to give it that signature FXDLS Brooklyn paint job? Honestly, right now I kind of just want to leave it stock, given some of the more flashy bikes I have in my garage. I'll leave it to you guys. Do you think I should go crazy with a paint job down the line, or just leave it classic as is? So as always, thank you for checking this one out. If there's something you think I missed or something you want me to check out and maybe do a review on, leave it in the comments section and I'll be sure to check it out. If you like this one, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we do have a Patreon for those deeper cuts and miles. Build and ride true motorcycles, practice a positive mental attitude, and on that, FXTLS Brooklyn is out.